Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. In this video I will discuss about AWS networking basic concepts like regions, VPC, availability zones and subnets. So let's get started. So the first thing is AWS region. So what is the AWS region? AWS regions are physical locations around the world where Amazon hosts its cloud computing resources, and each region is physically isolated from other AWS regions to achieve greatest possible fault tolerance and stability. And inside each region, we have at least three availability zones. So what is an availability zone? Availability zones are the data centers where your AWS services are hosted. And then we have a concept of VPC. So VPC stands for Virtual Private Cloud, and it is a virtual network that is dedicated to your AWS account. And VPC spans across availability zones, and we can specify a IP range for our VPC, and the size of the CIDR block can be between /16 to /28. For example, for this VPC we specified a CIDR block of 10.0.0.0/16, which would provide us 65,536 IP addresses, IPv4 addresses. And then we can have create more than one VPCs per region in an AWS account. And VPC supports both IPv4 and IPv6 addresses. Then inside the VPC we can create subnets. Subnets are subnetworks which we create inside our VPC. So we can create public subnet and private subnet. So public subnet is the network where we host our services which should be accessible from the internet, like our web servers. And whereas private subnet will be the network where we host our services like database servers which should not be accessible from the internet. For example, in this public subnet we can host our web server, and in the private subnet we can host a database server which should not be accessible from the internet. And when we create a subnet we specify this CIDR block, which should be a subset of a VPC CIDR block. Here we can see the CIDR block of public subnet is 10.0.1.0/24, which is a subset of VPC CIDR block. And this CIDR block provides 256 IP addresses for our public subnet. Similarly, the CIDR block for private subnet is 10.0.2.0/24, which is a subset of VPC CIDR block. So in this way we can create different subnets in our VPC, and one availability zone can have multiple subnets, but the subnets cannot span across availability zones. So in order to achieve high availability we can create subnets in different availability zones and place our resources in different availability zones. For example, here we created our web server in availability zone EU West 1A and EU West 1B, so that if one availability zone goes down, then we should be able to uh, access our server in different availability zone. So in this way, by launching our instances in separate availability zones, we can protect our application from failure of a single zone. Now we have a component called Internet Gateway. So Internet Gateway is a VPC component which allows communication of our VPC with the internet. So this web server would need Internet Gateway to interact with the internet. So if someone wants to access our website which is hosted in this web server, that request will go through Internet Gateway to our web server. And similarly, web server can access the internet through internet gateway component. And then this web server, the database server, we can see this database server do not have any connectivity to the internet, and it is in our private subnet. So if we want to update this database server, say for latest security patches, we need to connect this server to the internet to download the latest security patches. So for this purpose, we have a component called NAT gateway, which will be placed in the public subnet. So NAT gateway is a network address translation service which we can use so that the instances in our private subnet can connect to services outside of our VPC. But external word or external services cannot communicate or initiate a connection with our private subnet resources. So in this way we can protect our private resources from the outside world by placing them in our private subnet. So in private subnet we have a one-way communication to the internet through NAT gateway. So this was about the basics of networking in AWS. In the upcoming videos we will discuss about these in more detail, about how the traffic is routed from NAT gateway to internet gateway and that to the internet. So we will talk about concepts of route tables, NAT gateway and internet gateway in more detail. So thank you for watching the video, and if you like the video, please leave your comments or suggestions, and please subscribe to my channel for more such videos. Thank you.